Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Lara May, a clinical pharmacist specializing in functional medicine, as well as a certified yoga teacher and Reiki master. I run a truly integrative health coaching practice encompassing functional medicine lab testing, yoga and meditation, and a sprinkling of Reiki energy medicine. Join me here on Light Body Radio to break through your health plateau and come into alignment with your natural vitality. Hello and welcome to Light Body Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Lara May. And today I started this segment a few weeks ago, but I finally decided what to call it. I'm going to call it Wellness Illuminated. So this is a shorter segment where I bring you actionable insights on different topics, everything from mindset to food to supplements to physiology, meaning like understanding how different things happen and function in our body, meditations, all sorts of different things. So today what I want to talk about is radical responsibility. And what is that exactly? So radical responsibility is the idea that you are 100% responsible for your life, the outcomes you experience, regardless of any external factors. So this is completely eliminating blaming the outside world for how your life looks now. And this mindset shift is essential for achieving success, for creating change, and for really being a resilient human being. And because by embracing radical responsibility, you start to take full ownership of all of your choices, all of your decisions, and the outcomes that come with them. So we stop blaming external factors for our problems, and it really prompts us to start looking for solutions, because by taking radical responsibility, that means we are in control. Now, we might not be completely 100% in control of every single outcome, but what we are in control of is how we think about a circumstance, which in turn relates to how we feel about a circumstance, and then that determines our actions and our results. So taking radical responsibility goes beyond just taking responsibility for your actions and consequences. It really means taking full responsibility for your feelings, for your emotions. And again, where do those feelings and emotions come from? They come from our thoughts. So what we're really taking responsibility for is our thoughts about our life, our thoughts about our circumstances, our thoughts about the choices that we make. So rather than focusing on blame, shame, guilt, toxic fear, radical responsibility means we are locating the cause and control of our lives in ourselves and not in external events. And again, where is this ultimately stemming from? In our minds, in our heads. It's all about our thoughts. So let's put this into context. So let's say that I don't know, let's use an example of work. Most of us work out there. We have a job, a job, that we go to every day, and almost all of us have a boss. And so let's say that we show up to work and our boss gives us an assignment, and you think, wow, like this person like must not understand my potential and the value that I bring, and so then you just start to feel devalued and really unsatisfied in your job. And so now when you show up to your job, you're not really there. Maybe you then go down the path of like quiet quitting. And so then what does that create for yourself? So by this thinking, regardless of what your boss gives you as a task, it's your thought about it that creates your feeling. So if you're thinking, man, my boss doesn't see my true potential or my true value, and then that makes you feel maybe devalued or sort of like checked out, less involved, sort of apathetic, then that's going to actually really affect how you show up, your actions, which will then, affect your result. Maybe you won't get a raise next year, or maybe you won't even get considered for that next big project because you didn't really show up for this last one, because your thought about it was that my boss has no idea what my value is or doesn't value me, as much as I bring to the table. But on the other hand, if your boss brings you this task, and even if you're not super into it, you're like, whatever, I'm gonna bring my A game no matter what. I'm gonna show, the value that I can bring to this menial task. I'm gonna show the true value of it by me showing up. Then that might make you feel empowered. It might make you feel motivated. There's a whole myriad of emotions that might help you feel, but then those actions that result from that are going to be completely different than from the space of you coming from apathy. Right? So the other difference and this other aspect of taking responsibility is a stark difference between, so like, let's ask, like, what's the difference between taking responsibility and blame? So, because some people would argue that, oh, well, if you're doing this whole radical responsibility thing, then aren't you really blaming yourself for your outcomes? And I would argue, no. Blame is when we are giving our power away. So when we blame someone else for how we feel, we're not taking responsibility for how we feel. And we are saying that whatever we're blaming has the power over us to create our feelings. And that's not true at all. The only place our feelings come from are inside of ourselves, self-generated from our thoughts. I want you to take a minute to think about that. So if you say, that person made me angry, or that person hurt my feelings, or that person ruined my day, then think about all that power you're giving away. You're blaming other people for how you feel, but really what's causing and generating your feelings are your thoughts about whatever circumstance that related to. So the good news is that no one is that powerful. Nobody can generate feelings for us. They're our feelings. We own them. We're taking responsibility for them. But where do they come from? They come from our thoughts. So every time you start to, I want to like sort of point this out and bring some awareness to you, because this radical responsibility is so powerful and can be such a game changer for your life, for your productivity, for your happiness, for your satisfaction, because it really brings the power back to you. It's your choices. What are you choosing to do? What are you choosing to think? What are you choosing to feel? So if you're choosing to have hurt feelings, then what does that look like when you look back at your thoughts? That means you're also choosing to have those thoughts that are causing those hurt feelings. Now, granted, I'm not saying that if someone says something mean to you, then like you should just be like, oh, la la, that's fine, or I'm supposed to feel good about that if they said something mean. No, like you're allowed to, have a low, I will just call it a lower vibrational feeling. I don't think there's really any negative feelings. We label them as negative, but really a feeling is just a vibration that we hold in our body, and it comes through as an emotion. So, if someone says something mean to you, you're allowed to be hurt. You're allowed to have that feeling, but don't blame someone else for that, because it's super powerful to realize that I'm having this hurt feeling because of what I'm thinking about what they said. So the circumstances, they said something mean to me. Like, let's just say, like, my sister called me fat. And then you're saying that she hurt my feelings. Well, what we're missing there is what that thought is. So when your sister calls you fat, what is your thought about that? Is your thought, well, oh man, she's right, and then you feel bad? Or um, do you have a thought of, wow, she might just be having a really bad day and needs to take it out on someone, and then you don't feel so bad? Then you don't internalize it. So, do you see the difference between like taking that responsibility for your thoughts and your feelings, regardless of what someone else does, versus taking on what they say, assuming that what they say is correct, and then therefore having a bad feeling and then blaming them for it? So, most of us, when we think someone's hurt our feelings, we don't want to have to rely on them to feel better. Yet, that's what most of us do. We delegate our emotional life to the other person, and we want the other person to change, therefore, somehow giving us the permission to feel better. And no matter what someone does or someone says, when we take responsibility for how we feel, then we are empowered to feel better, to feel different. We are empowered to choose the way we want to respond, and to choose our thoughts and to choose our feelings, and we really take control of our lives. I think a lot of us go through life sort of just reacting, and constantly feeling out of control. And really, you kind of are out of control, because if you're just constantly reacting to your outside circumstances, not taking account of your thoughts or your feelings, then there is this disconnect. So no wonder you feel out of control. So, what I'm inviting you to do today, as part of this radical responsibility, is start to tune in. Like when you find yourself in that place of blaming something on the outside, blaming a circumstance, blaming a person, blaming, a situation, then I want you to actually pause and say, hey, wait, what am I thinking about the situation? And get really clear on your thoughts. And then when you look at those thoughts, then think about, what are you feeling? And just start there. You can go on from there if you want to fill in your actions. Like, what do you do when you have this feeling, when you're having that thought? And then what is the result you're creating for yourself from all of that? That's called, we work through a model that way. I use this concept of a model with all my clients and both life coaching and health coaching aspect of how I work with my clients. And so this model of circumstance, thoughts about the circumstance, which lead to your feelings, which lead to your actions, and then create your result. That's the model. And we can fill it in from any point of the model. So if we wanted to start with, well, these are my actions, this is what I'm doing. How do I feel when I'm doing that? And then when I'm feeling this feeling, what am I thinking? Because a lot of times we don't think about what we're thinking when we're having a feeling. Most of the time, we're just on autopilot having a feeling and blaming that outside circumstance. But that circumstance should be able to stay the same. And really, when we're in control and we're having radical responsibility and we're making those choices for ourselves, we should be able to recognize, oh, this is my thought, this is the feeling that it's causing. If I don't like it, that means I can change it. And I can either change it by deciding which feeling I want to feel, and then thinking, okay, well, what will I be thinking and doing when I feel this way? Or we can go at it from the thought perspective. What do I want to think about the situation? And when I think that, how does that make me feel? Or when I think that, like, what feelings come up? And then how does that change my actions and my results? So this is the power of life coaching. And if you would like to work with me, like, this is a lot of the work that we would do together, is exploring a myriad of circumstances in your life, but bringing it all back to, what are my thoughts about it? What feelings are created? What actions are created? And what results are created? And realizing that these are all choices. And it's this choice that is the radical responsibility. So I hope today has sort of got the wheels turning in your head and maybe brought some new awareness to how you show up, how you react, what you choose. Do you blame? Do you take responsibility? Like, where are you throughout this whole dynamic? I mean, and trust me, it's a journey. It's not something that changes overnight. It is something that I've started being aware of a long time ago, and it's constantly evolving. But I find it some of the most powerful work in really stepping into the power of, I am the creator of my life, I am the creator of my world, I get to decide how I show up, who else is in this life with me, what energy I allow in, what energy I don't allow in, and or if I'm exposed to some energy that I'm not stoked on, how am I reacting to it and or not reacting to it? How aware am I in my own life, in my own head? Because that's the beauty of being human, is that for the most part, a lot of us just go through life on autopilot as the animal beings that we are. But what separates us from the large majority of the animal kingdom, of which we are a part of, is that we have this extra level of consciousness where we can actually sort of step outside of our autopilot, and we have introspection and self evaluation. And then that's where that radical responsibility can come in. And so instead of being on autopilot, we get to choose and we get to say what goes or what doesn't go, or how I'm going to participate or how I'm not, or how I'm going to show up or how I'm not. So, again, I want to keep these segments short. Thank you for joining me in this segment of Wellness Illuminated. This is going to be an every other week segment. And so I look forward to seeing you next week with a guest. And then the week after that will be Wellness Illuminated. If you have topics or questions that you'd like addressed or answered, please don't hesitate, reach out, throw them in the comments. You can, do this on Instagram. You can do this on YouTube. You can do this on any of the platforms where the podcast is aired. Just throw in a comment or a review, and I'd love to hear from you and know how I can help you and support you. And I will catch you in the next episode. Bye.